Hi, I wanted to thank you for joining me. I wanted to take a few minutes to answer some of your questions related to Rediscovering You. I've gotten some questions through email and I just wanted to take a few minutes to answer them. I think it might help some of you who are viewing the tapes as well. So the first question I had was, do you recommend anybody for counseling specifically for marriage? My answer to that is yes, of course I do. I'm a psychologist. I was able to do some really wonderful work with people in my practice. I certainly recommend counseling for most anyone. I also think it's important. I think this person is specifically asking if they should have counseling related to marriage, even if their spouse doesn't join them. Sometimes you know that your relationship needs some work, you know you need some counseling related to your marriage, and your spouse says no. I say go in and do the counseling anyway. I think in the process of you talking with the therapist about your marriage, you're going to learn a lot of things about yourself. And the things that you start to learn about yourself are going to help you to be different in your relationship with your spouse. So I always say that when we are, because relationship takes two people and we respond to each other in specific ways, and over time a relationship kind of gets in a rut sometimes when we get used to responding to each other the same way all the time and things don't change. When you change, the relationship has to change. The other person has to respond differently. So I say go for it and go ahead and start the therapy. And at some point, maybe your spouse will join you for some marriage therapy. The second question I have is when being vulnerable with people, and they're talking about that fourth series when I talk about being vulnerable to someone else and opening up yourself to someone else so that you can start being who you really are. They say when being vulnerable, should it be with people that you have known for a while? First of all, I want to say that the reason the series was 4 parts is because the last part was talking about being vulnerable. You have to work on the other things first before you even can feel comfortable being vulnerable with someone else. So remember the first session, we were talking about being relevant, and how we've developed this relevant self over time that really isn't who we are. So start to work on those things first, and then when you get to part 4, it won't seem so frightening. So again, when you're vulnerable to someone else, I'm not talking about going to someone and sharing your life story. I'm talking about just really picking a time when you can talk to someone about your feelings. And it could start with something small, like going to a friend that you trust and saying, hey, yesterday when you said this, it made me feel. So you could do something like that. And it could be something pretty small. And as you build your confidence over time with being okay with being who you are, then you will be okay maybe divulging some other more meatier things about yourself, or talking to other people about things that you've been through that are challenging for you to share with people. And lastly, the question was, how do you handle it if you're vulnerable with someone and they don't like what you've said, and it's too much for them to handle? First of all, when you go into a conversation with someone and you're trying to learn how to be yourself and you're being vulnerable, first of all, just go into the conversation with no expectations. I know that's kind of hard, but go into it just not expecting the person to respond the way you think. And just say, you know what, that person has the right to respond the way they want to, because they're their own person. They have their own life experiences, things that they've been through that allow them to respond the way they're going to respond. And I can't change another person. All I'm working on is just being who I am. So just go into the conversation not expecting anything. And then even if you're feeling hurt by what they've said, if they don't respond in a positive way, go back, process what was said and how you said things and what they said to you, and just try to understand why they might have responded the way they did. But the whole point of the exercise is not that you change another person's response, is that you become more comfortable being just who you are. So I hope that helped. Please continue to comment, send me an email. My email is info@drcelesteowens.com. So you're welcome to email me or just comment here on the blog. I look forward to hearing from you. And again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.